Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've submitted a document for the record. Has it been approved?
Let me check. Has the document been approved?
We can review it. Do you want to talk about what document it is?
They're reviewing it as we speak, and we'll.
Okay.
Is it okay?
The document's fairly.
Okay, we're going to address all the documents at the end of the hearing.
Okay, the document's fairly simple. It's just a document indicating that from the United Steelworkers that we're just showing that over the last recent years, numbers of years, that they have not worked with us in unity and bipartisan. 99.6% of their contributions have gone to the Democrats. So I appreciate their remarks because I agree. Coming from a steel area, I can relate to the steel workers. But let me get to my primary remarks in question because what I was hearing, Mr. Chairman, was that Biden's transition from fossil fuels is going to we got to have alternative employment if we're going to do that. But we look at what John Kerry said. President Biden wants workers to have alternatives. And he goes on to say, to make solar panels. Gina McCarthy says, workers from coal communities will be, quote, put to work making solar panels. And even Vice President Harris said, displaced workers, coal miners, can work, quote, reclaiming abandoned landmines. I'm not sure she meant to say that, but nevertheless, that's what was said. So I'm saying that, Mr. Chairman, let's be fundamental. There are no solar panel or wind turbine manufacturing plants in Gillette, Wyoming, Hazard, Kentucky, Cadiz, Ohio, or Welch, West Virginia. These are communities that are based on fossil fuels with downstream jobs in steel fabricating, concrete plants, machine shops. So I don't understand what these alternatives, since these towns and these workers don't have other alternatives. You understand, these are small towns. They don't have choices. So I guess they have three choices if they have any. One is be underemployed, go from $85,000 job to 20. They could commute hundreds of miles to find some other job someplace else to leave their families. Or the third option, I guess, is relocate. So if I could, to the steelworker, can you share, are these the best options we have? Anna?
Thank you for the question. Sorry, it took me a moment to come off mute. I think we see this slightly differently. I mean, there certainly historically has been a discrepancy between where renewables jobs have been created and some of the devastation we've seen, particularly in coal communities.
Okay, I'm not getting a straight answer on it. So I'm sorry, the same thing is, this may happen over a period of time, but I'm saying that where was this transition plan for the workers at the Keystone Pipeline or the Atlantic Coast Pipeline or the Mountain Valley Pipeline? Their jobs were cut overnight. They don't have a transition. So I'm very concerned about our idea of having a transition plan. So now if I could go to back to with Mr. With the Manhattan Institute. Wouldn't it be better to be investing in innovation and research, like dealing with carbon capture, rather than importing and relying on other countries like China for rare earths and critical materials? I'd like to hear his comment, Mr. Mills.
Well, let me first go on record with saying, and as I've said before, I'm fully supportive of building more factories in America that can make solar panels and batteries. I'm in support and have asked many times in the past the Congress to think about encouraging more mining and mineral processing in America and more steel production in America. So I'm an unabashed endorser of more of all these jobs in America. As a practical matter, that takes time, as you said, and over the coming years, as we accelerate the incentives and requirements for wind, solar, and batteries, that necessarily means exporting jobs. It just does. Because, as I said in my opening remarks, 90% of solar panels are now imported. We can't build factories fast enough. We certainly can't open mines fast enough to get the critical minerals for batteries. So as a practical matter, in the coming decade, it's, it's arithmetically and scientifically and economically impossible to have any other consequence but exporting the environmental consequences of those activities to other countries and exporting the primary jobs for those machines to other countries. So I think it's a very thorny problem for Congress to deal with. I fully endorse the idea of encouraging more production in America. But this is we have to be honest about what it will mean right now.
If I could, Mark, just jump in on, but what happens to Gillette, Wyoming,
Well,
that Hazard, Kentucky, Caddis, or Welch? What happens to those in the meantime? There are no other alternatives.
We know you laid out the three answers. There are no other answers. If jobs disappear overnight, which they can when bans are enacted or things are canceled, obviously. But I'm slightly more optimistic about the ability to do retraining in the modern era than we were in the last 30 years. But that takes time too, right? You can quote repurpose skilled workers to other things, but that doesn't. They have to have a factory. We don't make solar panels in any significant quantity in America, so there's no place to go. You can install more of them, but those are, as everybody knows, important jobs, but they're very low wage jobs.
Thank you.
The gentleman yields back.